Raymond Octave Joseph Barre was a French centre-right politician and economist. He was a vice president of the European Commission and Commissioner for Economic and Financial Affairs under 3 presidents, and later served as prime minister under Valéry Giscard d'Estaing from 1976 until 1981. As a candidate for the presidency in 1988, he came in third and was eliminated in the first round. He was born in Saint-Denis, in the French island of Réunion, then still a colony. Career. Professional life. After his education, Raymond Barre was professor of economics at the Institut d'études politiques de Paris. From 1959 to 1962, he was director of Jean-Marcel Jean's staff in the Ministry of Industry and Trade. Then, in 1967, President Charles de Gaulle chose him as vice president of the European Commission for Economic and Financial Affairs. He stayed in Brussels until January 1973, serving in the Raymond and Monniaux commissions. Having come back to France, he joined the cabinet as Minister of the External Trade in January 1976. Premiership. 7 months later, while mostly unknown at that time, President Giscard d'Estaing appointed him Prime Minister and Minister of Economy and Finance. He presented him to the French people as the best economist in France. Under the Fifth Republic, he was the only person to hold these 2 offices at the same time. He left the Ministry of Economy and Finance in 1978, but stayed as Prime Minister until the defeat of Giscard d'Estaing at the 1981 presidential election. At the head of the cabinet, he was faced with the conflict which divided the parliamentary majority between the Giscardians and the neo-Gaullist Rally for the Republic led by his predecessor Jacques Chirac. The right majority unexpectedly won the 1978 legislative election. Barre was also confronted with an economic crisis. He advocated a strict policy to cut inflation and public spending, and the industrial restructuring. In the face of trade union opposition, he did not use diplomatic language, mocking the bearers of banners, and he exhorted, instead of grousing, "You should work hard." Post-premiership. After his departure from the head of the cabinet, he was elected deputy of round.He under the label of the Union for French Democracy. He held his parliamentary seat until 2002. In the 1980s, he competed for the leadership of the right against Chirac, believing that the cohabitation was incompatible with the Fifth Republic. He let Chirac take the lead of the cabinet after the 1986 legislative election. He ran as UDF candidate for president in the 1988 election, but some components of his party supported covertly the other right-wing candidate, the neo-Gaullist Prime Minister Jacques Chirac. In spite of positive polls at the beginning of the campaign, he came the third behind the 2 protagonists of the cohabitation, the socialist President François Mitterrand and Jacques Chirac. For the second round, he called his voters to transfer to the RPR candidate, who was finally defeated. After the failure of his presidential candidacy, he focused on his local tenures in Lyon. In 1995, the RPR mayor of Lyon, Michel Noir, could not compete for another term due to a judicial indictment, and consequently, Barre was the right-wing candidate to the mayoralty. He was elected, but he did not run for a second term in 2001. 1 year later, he finished his last parliamentary term in the French National Assembly and retired from politics. Raymond Barre was probably the only French politician to have reached such high levels of responsibilities without having ever been an official member or leader of any political party. He always kept some distance with what he considered to be the political microcosm. Raymond Barre died on the 25th of August 2007 at age 83 at the Val de Grace Military Hospital in Paris, where he was being treated for heart problems since his transfer from a hospital in Monaco on the 11th of April 2007. Political career: governmental functions: Prime Minister, 1976 to 1981. Minister of Economy and Finance, 1976 to 1978. Minister of Foreign Trade, January-August 1976. Electoral mandates: National Assembly of France, member of the National Assembly of France for Rhône, 1981 to 2002. Elected in 1981, re-elected in 1986, 1988, 1993, 1997. Municipal Council, Mayor of Lyon, 1995 to 2001. Municipal Councillor of Lyon, 1995 to 2001. Urban Community Council President of the Urban Community of Lyon, 1995 to 2001. Member of the Urban Community of Lyon, 1995 to 2001. Allegations of anti-Semitism. On several occasions, Raymond Barre made remarks that were interpreted as anti-Semitic, or at least supportive of anti-Semitism. In 1980, when he was Prime Minister, a bombing was attempted against the Union Libérale Israélite de France synagogue in the Rue Copernic, Paris. However, the bomb detonated in the street when the Jews attending Shabbat were inside the synagogue, and not when they were out, but as a result some non-Jewish bystanders were killed. Raymond Barre then famously denounced a hateful attack which wanted to strike at the Jews who were in the synagogue, and which struck innocent French people who were crossing the street. A controversy erupted because Raymond Barre's sentence seemed to imply that the Jews inside the synagogue were neither completely innocent, or were not French. Later, Barre was criticized for defending the collaborationist Maurice Papon at his trial. He issued the following statement to his accusers: "I am and have always been on the side of the Holocaust survivors to condemn barbarity and its accomplices." Governments. Barre's first government, the 27th of August 1976 to 30 March 1977. Raymond Barre, Prime Minister and Minister of Economy and Finance. Louis de Guéringard, Minister of Foreign Affairs. Yvonne Bourges, Minister of Defense. Michel Poniatowski, Minister of the Interior. Michel Dornano, Minister of Industry and Research. Christian Bulac, Minister of Labour. Olivia Gitchard, Minister of Justice. René Haby, Minister of Education. Christian Bonnet, Minister of Agriculture. Jean-Pierre Fourcade, Minister of Equipment. Robert Boulin, Minister of Relations with Parliament. Simone Veil, Minister of Health. Robert Galli, Minister of Cooperation. Pierre Bruce, Minister of Commerce and Craft Industry. André Rossi, Minister of External Commerce. Vincent Anscar, Minister of Quality of Life. Jean Le Canuet, Minister of Planning. Barre's second government, the 30th of March 1977 to 5 April 1978. Raymond Barre, Prime Minister and Minister of Economy and Finance. Louis de Guéringard, Minister of Foreign Affairs. Yvonne Bourges, Minister of Defense. Christian Bonnet, Minister of the Interior. René Monneaux, Minister of Industry, Commerce, and Craft Industry. Christian Bulac, Minister of Labour. Alain Peyrefitte, Minister of Justice. René Haby, Minister of Education. Michel Dornano, Minister of Culture and Environment. Pierre Méhaignerie, Minister of Agriculture. Jean-Pierre Fourcade, Minister of Equipment and Regional Planning. Simone Veil, Minister of Health and Social Security. Robert Galli, Minister of Cooperation. André Rossi, Minister of External Commerce. Changes: the 26th of September 1977. Fernand Icart succeeds Fourcade as Minister of Equipment and Regional Planning. Barre's third government, the 5th of April 1978 to 22 May 1981. Raymond Barre, Prime Minister. Louis de Guéringard, Minister of Foreign Affairs. Yvonne Bourges, Minister of Defense. Christian Bonnet, Minister of the Interior. René Monniaux, Minister of Economy; Maurice Papon, Minister of Budget; André Giraud, Minister of Industry; Robert Boulin, Minister of Labour and Participation; Alain Peyrefitte, Minister of Justice; Christian Boulac, Minister of Education; Alice Saunier-Cité, Minister of Universities; Jean-Philippe Lecat, Minister of Culture and Communication; Pierre Méhaignerie, Minister of Agriculture; Michel Dornano, Minister of Environment and Quality of Life; Jean-Pierre Soisson, Minister of Youth, Sports and Leisure; Fernand Icart, Minister of Equipment and Regional Planning; Joël Lathirlé, Minister of Transport; Simone Veil, Minister of Health and Family; Robert Galli, Minister of Cooperation; Jacques Barrot, Minister of Commerce and Craft Industry; Jean-François Denayre, Minister of External Commerce. Changes 29 November 1978. Jean-François Poncet succeeds Guy Ringard as Minister of Foreign Affairs. 4 July 1979. Jacques Barrot succeeds Veil as Minister of Health and Social Security. Maurice Charretier succeeds Barrot as Minister of Commerce and Craft Industry. 29 October 1979. Jean Mattei succeeds Boulin as Minister of Labour and Participation. 2 October 1980. Joël Lathirlé succeeds Bourges as Minister of Defence. Daniel Hoeffel succeeds Lathirlé as Minister of Transport. Michel Cointat succeeds Denayre as Minister of External Commerce. The 22nd of December 1980. Robert Galli succeeds Lathirlé as Minister of Defence. The 4th of March 1981. Michel Dornano succeeds Lecat as Minister of Culture. No one succeeds Lecat as Minister of Communication. Retirement. Barre retired from active politics in June 2002. He was being treated at a hospital for a heart condition since April 2007 when he died on 25 August 2007. He was survived by his wife and 2 sons.